Have you ever noticed, even in the middle of an embrace, sometimes you feel like you are negotiating, like you are being good, not because you want to, but because you expect something in return. Like, deep down, there is an unspoken contract. If I give in, if I do not complain, if I behave, maybe you will stay. Or the opposite. If I open up, if I trust, if I show my pain, maybe this time I will be truly loved. This is not weakness. It is what happens when love becomes insurance against loneliness. Most relationships, ours too at some point, work like this. Two radios tuned to the same static, each one waiting for the other to send a clear signal. Without realizing the noise is inside their own device. No one gets into this out of foolishness. We get into it because we learned, from an early age, that love is what saves us from the feeling of not being enough. And then we confuse intimacy with fusion. We confuse closeness with absolute security. We confuse being with someone with not being alone. But there comes a point, and it is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is silent, when something breaks. Not the relationship, the illusion. It is when you realize, no matter how much the other person tries, no matter how much they love you, they cannot heal that old wound you carry. That feeling, am I enough? And then, for the first time, you stop asking the other for what only time, courage, and solitude can give you. This is the threshold. It is not enlightenment. It is maturity. And it is from there that something different begins. It is not about finding someone perfect. It is not about becoming an enlightened person. It is simpler and harder. It is finding someone who, just like you, has stopped seeking validation outside themselves. Someone who has learned to bear their own company. Someone who does not confuse intimacy with fusion. When two people like this meet, what changes is not what they do. It is how they do it. The first difference is subtle, but transformative. Love becomes a choice, not a necessity. They do not depend on each other to feel real. That is why they can love without clutching. That is why a no from the other does not dismantle them. It only informs them. This is not coldness. It is freedom. Think of two trees close together, independent roots, crowns that touch in the wind. Each one grows in its own direction without blocking the other sun. When the storm comes, neither tries to protect the other, but both withstand it because they are firm in their own soil. That is how it works without possession, because there is no fear of disappearing if the other leaves. Without control, because you do not demand the other to be what you need. If they change, that is not betrayal. It is life happening. Without games, because there is no advantage in manipulating someone whose presence is already a gift, conflict still exists. Of course it does. Differences do not disappear with maturity. They just stop being threats. But now, conflict is not a wildfire. It is a campfire, fueled by honesty, not accusations. You can say, "This hurt me," without turning the other into a villain, because you know the problem is not in them. It is between you. And the between is a place that can be cleaned together. There is no need to win. There is no urgency to be understood before understanding. There is a slow, firm movement towards mutual understanding, even if sometimes each needs to go back inside, alone, to listen to what is being said and what is being left unsaid. And in this space, something rare blossoms. Comfortable silence, not that tense silence full of unspoken resentment, but the silence that comes when you do not need to talk to prove that connection still exists. It is the silence of two people simply present, who are not waiting for the other's speech to be able to respond, but are listening even when nothing is being said. And when they speak, the listening changes. There is no hidden agenda. There is no rebuttal being prepared in their head. It is listening as hospitality. You open the door of your attention and let the other enter wholly without trying to remodel the house to fit them. There is also a serene humor, not sarcastic, not defensive, that is born from seeing one's own humanity with lightness. Both know they still have ego tricks, fleeting jealousy, fear of making mistakes, attachment to certainties. But they do not build dramas around it. They recognize, there is that pattern again. And they smile, not by denying the pain, but by no longer identifying with it as their essence. It is like the sky before the storm. It lets it pass without becoming the storm. Physical intimacy also changes. It stops being a search for validation, want me so I feel desirable, or an escape from anxiety, let lose ourselves in the body to forget the mind. It becomes celebration, pure presence. Two bodies, two nervous systems, two histories converging in a single moment of attention, without performance, without comparison, without projection, just what is there: breath, touch, warmth. Consciousness inhabiting the flesh, without rush, without shame. And perhaps the most revolutionary, they can be together or apart with the same naturalness. There is no panic in the distance. There is no idolatry in the proximity. They know the bond does not depend on the constancy of physical presence, but on the quality of attention when they are together. Moving away is not abandoning. It is breathing. Just as inhaling and exhaling are parts of the same cycle, being together and being alone are complementary movements. No one blames the other for needing space. No one demands constant confirmation of love. Because they understand, love is not a stock that depletes with absence. It is a frequency that remains even in silence. This generates spontaneous generosity. Not the kind that gives to receive, but the kind that gives because it is full. They support each other's growth, even when that growth leads them to different paths. They do not see this as a threat. They see it as confirmation. You are becoming more you, and I celebrate that, even if your more you no longer fits entirely in my world, because they know true love does not imprison. It liberates. And then the most beautiful paradox arises. The less you try to guarantee the relationship will last, the more deeply it establishes itself. There are no empty promises of forever. There is a commitment to the now. As long as we are here, I will be whole. Not with half my attention in the past, nor half in the future. Here, now, with you. And ironically, it is this surrender without guarantee that creates the most solid security. That of knowing that, as long as it lasts, it will be real. There will be no spectacle. There will be no grand declarations to prove intensity. But there will be something rarer: consistency, presence, quiet trust. And in the small things, washing dishes side by side, driving in silence, deciding how to pay a bill, there is a discreet sacredness because everything is done with attention. Because nothing is trivial when you are truly there. You are not waiting for the romantic Saturday dinner to feel loved. You feel it now, in the way he folds the napkin before placing it on the table, in the way she asks, "Have you eaten?" without judgment, in the glance that crosses the room and says without words, "I am here, you are here, this is enough." It is the extraordinary in the ordinary, the sacred in the everyday. And yes, there are still emotions. sadness, anger, insecurity. No one becomes a saint. But the difference is, these emotions are no longer the owners of the house. They are visitors. They arrive, are recognized, felt, and move on. No one builds stories with them. He ignored me at dinner. That proves he does not love me. Instead, I feel a tightness. Maybe it is the heavy day. Or maybe that phrase sounded colder than he meant it. I will rest. We will talk tomorrow. It is the difference between feeling and identifying. And in the end, what makes all this possible is not perfection. It is responsibility. It is taking on. Your inner peace is not the other responsibility, just as theirs is not yours. It is understanding. Love is not a shelter against existence. It is a way to inhabit it more deeply. It is not about finding someone who completes you. It is about finding someone with whom you can be whole. And it is in this space where two free beings choose day after day to come close without annulling themselves, that something ancient is revealed. The deepest intimacy is not born from fusion, but from respect for difference. The most solid trust does not come from promises, but from the daily observation that the other is being truthful, even when it's uncomfortable. And the most lasting love is not the one that resists time, but the one that reinvents itself with it, unafraid to die because it was born free. It is not a fairy tale. It is rarer than that. It is human. And it is within reach, not of those who are enlightened, but of those who are willing to stop running from themselves. Because in the end, what two whole people build together is not a relationship immune to pain. It is a field of trust, a place where it is safe to be fragile, where it is possible to make mistakes without being discarded, where silence is not emptiness but shared fullness, and where finally you can say, I am with you, not because I need you to exist, but because with you, existence becomes lighter, clearer, more beautiful, and for that, today, I choose to stay. And that, yes, is revolutionary. Perhaps upon hearing this, something resonated within you. Perhaps you remembered a silence that was not comfortable, a conversation that turned into a dispute about being right, an I love you that deep down carried a please, do not go. Or perhaps you remembered a rare moment when, effortlessly, without fear, you simply were with someone, and for a few minutes you did not need to be anything more than what you were. This is not a distant ideal. It is a possibility here, now. It begins not with the other, but with an honest question asked of yourself. What am I still asking love to give me that only I can give myself? Perhaps it is security. Perhaps it is validation. Perhaps it is the certainty that you are enough exactly as you are. And if, instead of waiting for someone to heal that wound, you started caring for it with your own hands, with patience, with presence, with fidelity to yourself, because the love born from fullness is not perfect, but it is free. And freedom is the soil where true meeting happens. If something here made sense to you, if it brought clarity, relief, or even a slight restlessness, do you know what that means? It means you are already on the path and you are not alone on it. Share in the comments with simplicity without judgment. A phrase that summarizes what you are understanding about love now. It could be something you stopped doing, something you decided to stop asking for, or simply, today I chose to stay with myself. Because transformation begins with recognition, and recognition, when spoken aloud, gains strength, gains form, gains company. Thank you for being here. Until next time, whole, present, and free.